In this video, we're going to be doing a quick introduction to numbers, and we're going to be comparing whole numbers, decimals, and fractions. And for this video lesson, you will need your math journal, a calculator, a pencil, an eraser, and a ruler. So if you don't have those things, just quickly pause the video and go get them before you continue. Okay, let's get started. First thing you're going to do in your math journal is you're going to write this title. You're going to write Introduction to Numbers, comparing whole numbers, decimals, and fractions. Now when you're completing these video lessons, you can pause them at any time. So if you need to pause to write something down or to think about something, feel free to do so. Now when I'm going to ask you to write something down, I'll let you know. So for this first part, I just need you to watch. So you don't have to write this down if you don't want to. We're going to do some examples in your math journal in a minute. But for now, you're just watching and listening. So we're going to start off with something called a number line. This particular number line goes from 0 to 3, and we're going to be using it to compare numbers. So numbers closer to 0 would be closer to this end, numbers close to 1 would be put on this part of the line, numbers close to 2, and 3. So when we put numbers on the line, it makes it easier for us to see how they compare to each other. And since we're comparing whole numbers, decimals, and fractions, a number line is a useful tool. So let's start with these three numbers. I'm going to start with the fraction of 1/4, the whole number of 2, and the decimal 0.95. So I need to put these numbers on the number line so I can start to see how they relate to one another. So in order to compare these numbers, I need to make them comparable. And to do that, they need to have the same denominator. So when I'm saying to make them comparable by making all the numbers have the same denominator, I'm talking about the number on the bottom of a fraction like this. So the denominator in 1/4 is 4. The other numbers aren't fractions. However, if it's not a fraction, we can make it a fraction with the denominator of 1. So now these two numbers here, 2 and 0.95, are comparable. They've got the same denominator. We can put these on the number line. So 2 goes right here. It's already on there. And 0.95, that's just a little bit less than 1. So I would put that here on the number line. Just before the 1 mark, slightly closer to 0 than 1. But now I have this 1/4. It does not have a denominator of 1, so I can't just put this 1 on the number line because it's not 1, it's 1/4. I need to see how it compares to these two numbers, so I'm going to change the denominator. Here's how you do that. We have to make this 1/4 equal to some fraction where 1 is the denominator. So 1/4 is equal to something over 1. Just like I know 1/4 is equal to 2 out of 8. We need to make an equivalent fraction where the denominator is 1. So 1/4 is going to be the same as 2/8. Same area is shaded in both of these pictures. These are equivalent. So just like I had to look at these fractions and see what I have to do to 4 to get to 8, you see that I have to double it. So I would double the top as well, which gives me 1 times 2 is 2, 4 times 2 is 8. The equivalent fractions work the exact same way when we're going to make the denominator smaller. So we're going to see, what do we have to do to 4 to get it to 1? To go bigger, we had to multiply. So to go smaller, we actually divide. And to get something to be equal to itself, we just divide it by itself. So 4 divided by 4 equals 1. 6 divided by 6 equals 1. 100 divided by 100 equals 1. Any number divided by itself is going to get us to 1. And it's important for us to remember. Whenever we're trying to get a denominator equal to 1, we just divide by itself. Now whatever we did to the bottom, we're going to do to the top. So we need to figure out what 1 divided by 4 is. This is where your calculator comes in handy. 1 divided by 4, my calculator gives me 0.25. So instead of this question mark, we do know what it is, 0.25. So now instead of 1/4, we know it's 0.25 over 1. And that's a number we can put on the number line because all of our denominators are equal. So I can go ahead and put 0.25 on the number line. Now I have to figure out where that is. So 0.25, that's a quarter. So it's not a half. A half would be here, but halfway between 0 and 1. It's a quarter of that. So if I divide this line here into 4 parts, the 1/4 is going to go right on this first line here. It's a little bit wonky. Let's try that again. There. We have 1/4 being the smallest number, 0.95 being a little bit bigger, and then 2 over here at the largest number. So when I get the denominators all the same, I can see how the numbers compare using this number line. So pause the video if you want to read this again and kind of think about it a little bit more. Next, we're going to do some practice in your math journal. So you're going to need your materials here, your journal, your calculator, pencil, eraser, and ruler. So here are our practice numbers. What I'd like you to do first is think about the numbers that already have a denominator of 1. And I want you to put those numbers on the number line. Pause the video here until you've done that. So for this case, we have 2 numbers that already have a denominator of 1. We have 0.54, that's a decimal. So we would just put 0.54 over 1. And then we have 0.39. We can just put that over 1. So we can put those on our number line. So 0.54, that's pretty close to 0.5. Now if I wasn't sure what fraction that would be and how to put this on the line, I might want to think of this 1 whole as 100, and this 0.54 is 54. So if I'm looking at a 54 out of 100, 54%, I know that's about half and then a little bit more. So I would put 0.54 right about here on my number line, just beyond the half mark. And 0.39, that's a little bit less. It's not quite a quarter. That was 0.25. I would say it's about here. 0.39. But now we have fractions, and none of those fractions have a denominator of 1. So I want you to try this 2/3 one for yourself and see if you can get it as a denominator of 1. Pause the video until you've done that. So this fraction, 2/3, we need to get an equivalent fraction where the denominator is 1. So to get 3 to 1, we need to divide it by itself. So that would be 3 divided by 3 equals 1. And then up at the top here, we're going to do the exact same thing. 2 divided by 3 equals, so we get out our calculator, and we're going to do 2 divided by 3, and that's going to give me a really long decimal, but I'm going to round it to 0.67. 2 spots is fine for now. So if you look at your calculator, it's probably going to say 0.66666 all the way repeating. So I'm going to round that here and round that 6 to a 7, which would mean this is 0.67 over 1. So 0.67 It's like 67 out of 100, so that would be a little bit closer to here. 0.67. Okay, now try getting 5 quarters, or 5 over 4, as a fraction with a denominator of 1, and then plot that number on your number line. So right away I see that my numerator is bigger than my denominator, so I'm going to make a prediction that it's going to be bigger than 1. Let's see what that is. So to get 4 to 1, we're dividing by 4. And up here, we're going to do the same, divide by 4. So in my calculator, I'm going to say 5 divided by 4. That's going to give me 1.25. And that makes sense to me because 5 over 4 is also the same as 1 1/4. So 1 1/4. So now I can go ahead and compare this number to the rest because they all have the same denominator. Now I'm going to put 1 1/4, 5 quarters, 1.25 at 1 1/4. So if I look at this, if we split it up into half quarters, it's going to go right there at, let's put the fraction in, 5 over 4. Let's do that for that blue number as well. So instead of 0.67, it was 2/3. Okay, last one, 1/5. Try to get this as a fraction with a denominator of 1, and then put it on your number line. Just like with the other ones, I'm going to divide 5 by itself, and do the same to the top. 1 divided by 5 in my calculator gives me 0.2, which now I can plot on this number line. It's actually our smallest number, probably about there, 1/5. So let's make a little summary note here. And this is something I would like you to write down in your math journal as well. So for our summary note, we want to figure out how to compare whole numbers, decimals, and fractions. So to compare something, it's easiest when they have the same denominator. So how do we do that? So you're going to divide the numerator by the denominator to get a decimal. So it'll be the decimal over 1. So we're always thinking about our denominator of 1. And in your summary note, you should probably include an example. I'm going to pick this one here. For example, 5 quarters is equal to 1.25 over 1. All right, let's talk next steps. You're going to go back to your slideshow, and you're going to put the numbers we just talked about on your number line. So if you want to know how to do that on your slides, there's a video here. Just click on the word number line, and you'll get an instructional video.